Hello and welcome to the Transcend and Succeed Show. I'm your guest host, Megan North. I would like to thank our wonderful sponsors of the show, Quantum Awakening, Voyage of Transcendence, and myself. And today I'm joined by Sugira Rubasha, who I met through networking group. And as soon as I watched Sugira stand up and introduce himself, I knew he was someone I needed to meet and to be in his proximity. So Sugira Rubasha is an entrepreneur, podcast host, and CEO and co-founder of the Rubasha Family Podcast and ETS Rubasha Media. He specializes in helping high-level CEOs and entrepreneurs build personal brands that establish them as industry experts, leveraging the power of podcasts and social media for long-term growth. Welcome to the show, Sugira. I've been really, really looking forward to you joining me today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Megan. I really appreciate you having me. I thank you for the introduction. And I do remember you coming and speaking to me. I loved your energy. And Megan was also a guest on our podcast, which is yet to be released, which was also a very powerful conversation. So I'm glad to come on your side and be in your shoes, and I appreciate you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really funny, actually, isn't it? Is that we get so used to interviewing people that when we're the guest, it's like, oh, actually, I can just sit here and enjoy the conversation. Exactly. So can we start with what does it truly mean to build a personal brand that creates legacy?
Well, I mean, I'd like to take it back, on how I started it and how I got to where I am. So I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be a business owner per se. I've came from Kenya and Rwanda, from Africa, and moved to Australia, immigrated here when I was about 3 years old with mum and dad. They had a good life back home, but they just thought, how can we, move somewhere fresh and new beginnings in a life like Australia, which is such a beautiful place and country. And so we came over to Australia, and I've always had the imagination to express myself. I've always been a football player. I was an athlete, played overseas, played for my national team. And throughout that journey, I started to document my life, right? I started to think about, what about when I'm no longer here? What am I going to leave behind? How can maybe my children and, our family see what I used to do? I'm not going to tell them what I did. I'm going to show them, and how can I just set a path that's beyond me, that's greater than me? So that was really my thinking when I think about it. And so throughout that journey of me being able to build a brand, which I didn't know I was building a brand. I was just putting content out there. I was enjoying it. It was fun, right? Yeah. And so then dad came and said, son, why don't we start a podcast? And then I said, that's actually a good point. And so I started to see mum and dad for human beings, and I started to see them for who they are. And I started to realize, wow, this is powerful. But when I really realized the power of a personal brand was when I did what? When I Googled myself. I just went and one day I Googled my name. And when I Googled my name, I saw so much on page 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I said, all those moments I was doing it for fun, creating, just, putting stuff out there. That time dad came and said, let's start a podcast. All of those things behind the scenes that I didn't know, that maybe I wasn't earning money and I didn't have a business. I was building a brand. Yes, I was getting the views and all of those things. But when I Googled myself, that's when it changed. And that's what happens. You go networking, you go to places. What are people going to do? They're going to Google you. So what comes up on Google, what ChatGPT says about you now, which is the new search engine, is so valuable. So yeah.
Really interesting. And so do you think when you were like 3 and 4 and 5, like that really little kid, do you remember having moments of thinking, I'm going to create something bigger, like I'm going to be who I am? Do you ever remember any moments like that?
Yes, well, like I do remember I used to watch movies when I was younger. I used to watch movies and I used to love the actors, Leonardo DiCaprio, Al Pacino. Al Pacino is one of my favorite actors, still is till today.
Yeah.
Robert De Niro. So I used to love watching actors. I used to kind of like Hollywood and said like, I want to be there one day. I want to be up there. Even again on the football scene, because football's been my, dream ever since I was a child. Yes, I'm destined to be playing in front of stadiums of 30, 40, 50, 60,000 people.
Mm,
Yes, I did always have that vision, and it's funny how things turn around. I might not be playing in a stadium in front of 40,000 people, but I may be speaking in front of 40,000 people talking about this stuff. Who knows?
yeah,
Maybe I will go and achieve that acting role in Hollywood, director, actor. But yeah, so yeah, I did always have that vision
yeah.
to express myself in the highest way possible.
Yeah, wow. I think that's exciting and amazing. And I love that you have those memories of you being that young and knowing that. So I think it's pretty amazing that at that young age you kind of started to already have your vision of where you were going to go. I think that's really lovely. And so why is creating a legacy so important to you? What is it about the meaning of legacy? Like what is it? What does it mean to you?
That's a good question. I thought about that question quite a lot. And for me, it's just like, even from an ego perspective, I want to be the one, my family, how we started this, that when they go in museums with our family, when we create museums, they'll be like, oh, they were the ones who created history. It was they were the revolutionaries. It was Sugira, him and his father, him and his family. They're the ones who started this. They're the ones we are, and our descendants are here because of them, right?
Yeah.
I went to story. I went to Vietnam on holiday, and I went through the temple, and it was quite beautiful. And they had statues of certain people, and just I'm a curious mind, so I said, "What? Who were these people? What did they do?" And they created things, they did things, they were revolutionists, and they had statues there. So it was just like, wow, that's what it means to create a legacy when these people are no longer here, but now people are coming and seeing them. So it's really about that. How can we be the ones who created a revolutionary? And then the second part of that is people don't remember, certainly what you do, but how you make them feel.
Mm,
you know how do you make people feel? I think that's also part of legacy,
yeah.
right? How did this person make me feel? I still listen to some people's interviews, even some of their music, and they're no longer here on this earth anymore, but
Mm,
that feeling that they give me when I listen to it, when I hear it, is powerful. So that's the other side of legacy. Is we're here on this earth to serve other people.
mm,
That's something I always remind myself in everything that I'm doing, and all the ambitions that I have financially and all these other things. No, you are here to serve people. And
yeah.
by serving people is a byproduct of your legacy. How many people can we truly serve at scale? And we have the ability to do that.
Yeah. And so is it then about the change? Like, how is it change? How can I change things for the better? How can I change things for people that are around me? Is change really important to you?
Yeah, correct. How can I change it? How can I change, our circumstances? How can, mom and dad not ever have to literally pay rent ever again,
Yeah.
right? Or go and do certain things. It's like, hey guys, full time, we're running this media empire, right?
Yeah.
And so yes, how can we impact and change the lives of all the people who are around us? And it's all the people who also want to buy into it, right? You got to buy into this. You got to be all into this. And for those ones who, are family and the ones close to us, but can also come in and add value
Yeah.
and say, I want to be a part of this machine to take it forward. Yes, how can we change their lives too? And that goes from family to employees, to everything we're building.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really interesting because before, when you started talking about that, you mentioned ego. And, I mean, I've only known you for a short period of time, but I don't really think that the ego I think you've got is very humble, in the sense of you're just chipping away and doing what you're doing. And I think it's interesting when you meet people who have got a very humble ego, because do you find that sometimes you actually need to ask it to come in a little bit to push you further? Or is it something that you just seem to be able to balance naturally?
Mm. I agree. I think it's more to balance naturally. I think maybe my ego could get in the way more so of, we get into this state sometimes of we can judge other people, right?
Hmm.
And, like this is a powerful show that you have, the Transcendence Succeed show. It's the mental, right? And so sometimes the ego can come in where maybe I might judge another person, or if something does someone wrong, my mind might, that's the ego
Yeah.
comparing and judging, and that's where my ego can play a role. But in
Hmm.
terms of like what you're saying, not really. You're right. Like I don't really kind of have an ego like that. It's
Yeah.
more so what we spoke about, just the love and conviction and passion,
Yeah.
and that just comes across. You gave wonderful advice on that podcast by saying, I just think when you like a hobby, when you stick to what you love, that is everything. And that usually, transcends, like the name of the show,
Mm.
you into a powerful path. So, yes, in terms of where we're going, maybe the ego can maybe try and come in there, but not really. Like I said, it's kind of balanced, but it's more so in other areas of my life where maybe the ego can come in and speak. And when it comes to those certain things, that
Yeah.
is always something to be a reminder to get present, say, hey, no, don't judge, because when you judge others, you only judge yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
ego doesn't know that. The ego thinks, oh, well, I'm talking about this person. No, you're talking about yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a very good point. It's usually a reflection on what you don't like within yourself. So you're judging somebody else because you don't really want to look at yourself and know that that's the trait that you have as well. So,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. Um, and I think the thing is that when we sit in the stuff that we love and we're living our purpose and our passion, the ego, there's really no place for an ego, because it's then not about us, it's about everybody else. Like, how can I serve you, what can I do, and how can I help you? And so it's quite interesting when I think, and I'm assuming that you would know this, I know this when I look on social media, and some people are, I can do this for you because I'm the best at this, and that just turns me off straight away. I don't want to be told by someone who says that they are the best at this. I want to be, I want to work with someone who is so passionate and all they want to do is share what they've learned and their knowledge. There's a real difference there. And I'm assuming for you, you see it a lot from a marketing perspective.
Mm. Yeah, I love what you said. It's more like don't tell me, show me, and that
Yeah.
showing is through the passion. It's through
Yeah.
showing case studies and showing who you're working with. So no, I definitely agree with that, and I just think it's powerful when you can continue to put yourself out there. Like a lot of people even might say, oh, like it's so much self promotion, and but no, you're supposed to promote yourself, right? But there's a difference between how you're doing it and how you're going about it. Like, look, I don't mind if you want to put yourself out there, go ahead. But yeah, I think some people also, there's a misconception of, oh, you're self promoting too much. No one's ever said that to me, but I've just heard people kind of say that. But no, you're supposed to put yourself out there. And when you're passionate, we take social media. Like, I'm like, I want to be posting 20 times a day, 15 times a day. Really, like, we're pushing me and my team every hour of the day. We need to post.
Yeah.
Why? Because there's people that we're serving and we need to be in front of them. We need to be educating them. Can we make them laugh? Can we make them smile? It doesn't always have to be about business. It doesn't always have to be about what I do. That's why I post stuff with the family. And no, we're going to show you everything,
Yeah.
and it's all about relationships. It's all about, that personal connection.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, how can entrepreneurs position themselves as industry leaders using personal branding?
That's a very good question. How can they position themselves? Well, the first step is to know thyself. You have to know thyself. Who are you, right? Why are you on this earth? And what is your vision? What is your mission? What are you trying to achieve? That's the first goal. Like I always advise, CEOs, entrepreneurs. What are you trying to achieve? And a lot of the people that we work with, a lot of CEOs and entrepreneurs that I see, they have that in mind. They know what they're trying to achieve. They're also about legacy and building that legacy. So it's okay, once we know that, okay, how can we just position you in front of the right people? How can we position you in front of your audience? But before we get to that point, I always talk about 3 pillars. And the first pillar is to document. You want to document, right? You want to document what you're doing. What you're doing here right now with your show, this is a part of documenting. Because like you saw before this show started, me and you were having a cool conversation like we always do, right? That's the magic. Like, and now there's just a camera behind it.
Yeah.
How can you just put yourself in a position to, I need to get content. I need people to see who I am because I know where my vision is. Okay, cool. So now I need to document it, whether I do it myself, whether I have a team, whether you get someone in-house and you pay them 30, 40 grand a year, an intern, whatever, or you hire specialists like us. How can I document what I'm doing?
Yep.
Right? In operations, meetings, podcast interviews, having a show, right? So that's the first part. And then the second part is, okay, well, now I need to distribute it.
Okay, yep.
I need to distribute it. I need to distribute the documentation. The powerful thing is when you document like this, like we talked about earlier, this conversation can be broken up into so many different parts. Many parts. It's a 40, 50-minute conversation. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Right? You're in a meeting with someone, with a client, and you're sitting down with them and talking. Maybe you have the camera there through Zoom and just you're getting your parts. That's a 15, 20-minute conversation. There's so much from that conversation that you talked about that's valuable. Well, now you're not just having that in that meeting with that person. Maybe that client doesn't close. Maybe they make the mistake of not closing. But now you can get all the source of what you said at scale to the person who does want your offer. So you want to document, then you want to distribute. And the second part of the distribution is, I love to be omnipresent. I love to be everywhere. So everywhere you go on your phone, when I Googled myself, every platform came up.
Yeah.
But I always tell, starting out, let's focus on where your audience is. Are you B2B? Most likely they're on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Right? So how can I show up on LinkedIn consistently? I'll give you a quick story. My first ever client, he's a lawyer, big lawyer from a big migration law firm, and he's going into other spaces of laws, offices all around the world. And he wanted to be able to how can I put myself out there quickly? I need to be out there quickly because in the law space, other people are putting out information about how to move to Australia. So I got to keep up. I got to stay relevant. Yep. And so when he met with me and loved the passion and loved the speed. Speed is hugely important because you got to get that information to educate your audience. And so his people are on TikTok searching, well, how can I move to Australia? What are the avenues? So now, guess who's answering those questions?
Yeah.
Ease. And that starts from documenting it, filming it. Now we distribute it across these platforms, but now we distribute it targeted on who's, where your customers are. B2C, those are mostly consumers, students, things like that. They're going to be on TikTok. And so we really focus on TikTok. B2B, maybe you're sponsoring someone to come to Australia, LinkedIn. Yeah. So you see how this is the pillar to position yourself as a industry leader. And so imagine doing that over 10, 15, 20 years. Having that content coming out, you're documenting, you're putting things out there. Then the third part, we're distributing on audio, on written, right? We're distributing everywhere. So everywhere they go, there's different touch points. Again, we like to call it 7-11-4. 7 hours someone takes to consume your content. This was research done by Google, they looked on people's Google searches, what makes someone buy from someone. Okay. So they saw that people took 7 hours to consume someone's content. So you have a show. If I want to know about Megan, I can go in and I can watch 7 hours. I could spend 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. watching Megan's show. Yep. So how much do you think I'm going to trust you more? Now, the second part of that is 11 touch points. So you want to be across different, touch points that I'm seeing Megan. I'm seeing Megan here. I'm seeing Megan networking. I see her in person. I'm seeing her on my social media platforms. You want to have different touch points where we see Megan. Then the last part is 4 locations. Is Megan on TikTok? Is Megan on LinkedIn? Is Megan on Facebook? Because when I'm doing my due diligence, when they're searching for that lawyer, they find his TikTok, But what are they going to do? They're going to keep searching. They're going to see his website. Okay, they
Right.
see his website. Then they're going to go see his Facebook page. Oh, he's got Facebook. Then they're going to go see his LinkedIn. Then go Instagram. By the time they've come to you, they're so educated, they're so warm. It's like, okay, how much is it? Can you just take my money?
Yeah, okay. Wow. Okay, that's amazing. And I suspect that over the years, particularly with social media, that's probably changed dramatically, hasn't it? Because if you even think about 20 years ago when you were going to work with someone or get a product or be a consumer and consume something, you there weren't as many people out there. There wasn't as much social media. I think now it's just fascinating to hear that of all of that because there's so many people out there doing the things that you're looking to consume. And so you've kind of got to filter it through, don't you? And I think that that's where that authenticity, that passion, that purpose, I suspect, in the content that you're sharing really comes through and really brings people in because they're being really authentic.
Mm. And we're living in a great time, like you said. It's kind of changing where it's not so much about how many followers you have. It's not about, before it used to be about social. So my mum's, who follows me, my friends, those are the people who see my content, right? But
Yeah,
now it's about interest. Whatever people are interested in, they're going to find you. If
yeah,
people are into manifestation, they're into, that holistic journey within their lives. Well, guess what? They're going to find you. And it's just like the way you manifest something, the way you're thinking about something. How many times have you gone and you're thinking about a fridge or something, and then you see it come up on your Facebook, you see it come up on your, because you keep searching it. The algorithms know what you like. So
yeah,
now, if you're a business owner, let's say you're selling cameras, there's people who are searching for those cameras. And
yeah,
so now, what are they going to do? They're going to keep searching it. It's going to come from their mind. It's going to go to their phone because your phone is literally an extension of you. And
yeah.
so now, what about if you can show up in front of them?
Mm.
That's the game changer now. And that's why anyone can do this. Anyone. We have so many baby boomers who, a lot of our clients, kind of like my dad when we first started, because my dad wasn't good at this stuff. And I'd see him. He was lucky he had me with this podcast because he didn't have to pay for it. And he gets someone to do it for him.
I love that.
Yeah, so he just kind of, what he got good at was more just learning how to put the camera there and start recording himself. But and this is fantastic for all the baby boomers out there. It doesn't matter if you haven't posted; it's not too late. No, like you can do it. All you got to do is just start today, because what you care about, what you're passionate about, well, listen, other people are passionate about it too, and
Yeah,
that is your unique value proposition, your
yeah,
obsession, your legacy, your passion. When you put that out there, the rest will come, as long as
yeah,
you get good at it, because you have to capture the attention.
yeah,
Because, like I said, there's so much people doing it. There's so many podcasts out there. There's so many people doing it. Where the art and science comes in to now, who's better, who's
yeah,
good?
yeah.
That's who wins over the long period.
And have you found that with the entrepreneurs that you work with, do you find that people these days also need to really have courage to step into really being out there on the stuff that they're passionate about, like their purpose? And the reason that I'm asking that is because I feel that sometimes someone sees something and thinks, well, this is the latest trend, I'm going to get on board with that. But it's not really their thing. But they're just doing it because that's what's popular at the moment. Whereas I feel like if you're really passionate about something and it's really your purpose, to step into that, I would suspect that some people would need to find real courage to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's a fantastic question, and I agree with you. It's interesting because I'll be doing a presentation at BX Sydney CBD on Wednesday. It's on sales and communication. And what it comes down to, I was thinking about it as I'm kind of preparing for that. It comes down to conviction. Do you have conviction so much in what you do that you're confident enough to put yourself out there?
Right.
Right? Do
Yeah.
you have that conviction? Because there's two sides to it. There's some people they're a bit shy to come out and do it, But well, do you have conviction? Do you believe you're good enough? Do you believe you're the best at what you do? That you have the conviction to come out? And again, like we said, you're not talking about yourself. Oh, I'm doing this. No, I have the conviction in this is so powerful. This is going to change your life. Whether it's, manifestation, whatever it is, social media, this is going to change your life and you need to hear about this. And so I'm going to show up every single day. I'm not going to do it for 2 years. I'm not going to do it for 3 years. No, I'm going to do it till the day I die. Yeah. Like you said, and that becomes, you're convicted, you have the passion, conviction and passion, that's longevity. Because like I said, when it gets hard, when you're getting 0 views, when no one's watching your videos, can you keep going? Yeah. Most people don't. But when you have conviction and passion in what you do, I don't care if I get 2-3 views. 2-3 people viewed my video, I'm grateful for that. Yeah. And I'm grateful for anyone who spends any second of their time to come and watch my videos. Because a lot of people might fear the judgment of others. We've had it on my YouTube channel because we've grown on our shorts and we get a lot of views. People write negative comments all the time. But they've taken their time out of their day. I didn't know that person existed. Or, I'm not looking into someone else's life. So they've taken time out of their day to comment on your post, positive or negative. Be grateful. Yeah. So that's why some people might also fear to put themselves out there, is because of that. No, have conviction and passion in what you do and keep going. So that would be my advice on the people who are a bit timid on putting their personal brand out there. If you're good at what you do and you want to keep adding value and also make more money, then it's there for you.
Wow, I love that. And I even love the way that you said conviction. I was like, wow, that's like, it was so forceful and it was so passionate. So yeah, I love that word. I think it really sums that whole piece up of what we've just been talking about. I think it's amazing. Excuse me. We've got to hear from our sponsors. So we'll take a couple of minutes just to hear from our sponsors. And then when we come back, I know that you've got an audience offer that we can share with the audience as well. So we'll hear from our sponsors and we'll come back.
Awesome.
Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, Sugira. Thank you for being patient and hearing from our sponsors.
No worries.
So I believe that you've got an offer for the audience. If you would like to share that, I'm just going to put a QR code up on the screen, but if you could share what the offer is for the audience.
Yeah. So, right now we have a 2-for-1 offer. So what that means, we're seeing in the marketplace today, like I was saying earlier, that it's so imperative for CEOs, entrepreneurs, people who are in this space to be on other people's podcasts. It's so valuable. Like what you're doing here it's so valuable for people to come on shows like this and express yourself and speak to other people's audience, leverage other people's audience. So we have a 2-for-1 offer because we have our own podcast. As a marketing company, as a brand, we have our own podcast. So we have people to come on our show, and then we can also set them up with their podcast. So it's a 2-for-1 offer, where it's like you get to come and be a guest on our show. So you could be the celebrity, you could be the guest, you have and leverage that audience that we have, but then now we set you up with your own leverage, because everyone should have their own show. Everyone should stand on their feet. I always tell entrepreneurs, you go on other people's podcasts, but you also have your own show. Someone can maybe not put out your episode, for example. Well, what are you going to do then? So you always got to have your own show. So we set that up where we're able to get them featured on our podcast in front of a global audience, while we set up their own podcast and have them running ready to go. So it's like a 2-for-1 offer.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you. And so the QR code there is for people to book in a discovery call with you. So it's time in your diary that they can book in, and then they can start talking to you about this offer and how they can work with you. So thank you. That's great. And so we've just been talking about personal branding. And so in your experience, what are the biggest mistakes that people make when they're trying to grow their brand?
When they're trying to grow their brand, you have a couple of mistakes that people make. A lot of people, the first mistake I would say is consistency. They're not consistent with it. They struggle with being able to stay top of mind, in front of mind. So consistency is a big mistake in terms of, if you're going to do this, go all in, right? So you got to either have the right infrastructure inside your team, or whoever you're going to externally has to be good and has to align with your vision and your legacy as well. So I would say the number one mistake is that it's like the consistency and the strategy. What's the strategy and intention behind it? Why are we doing this, right? Every piece of content we put out has to be what's in it at the end for the person who's watching. Sometimes we may put out things that I'll look at and say, wow, that will help me. But I know there's someone like me out there who can help. So you can have that. So I would just say those would be the two common mistakes is lack of consistency to keep getting data and getting insight on what's working and how you can improve, because you stop too soon. And then it's then that strategy part of what exactly are we doing? How good are we at this? And what's the intention behind every single thing? Those obsession to details. Yeah,
okay. And when you're talking about consistency, you're talking about like regularly every day showing up on some type of platform. Is that what you mean when you're talking about consistency?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And I think one of the things that I'm assuming people get advice from you too is that, how long do I stick at this? How long do I keep going? Because I would imagine that some people, and I've heard this before, that, they start something and after a couple of weeks have only had a few people like them or started to follow them, so they kind of give up. But it's a long game, isn't it? Like this whole thing is a long game.
I always say, personal branding is something that you never switch off, right? Just like the way you love your business and you're passionate about your business. Personal branding it's there's no off switch.
Right.
There's no off switch. You start this now, it's got to keep going, right?
Yeah. Okay. And I suppose that then really ties into the legacy piece, doesn't it? Because you really can't create a legacy if you're going to say, for the next 2 years, this is what I'm going to do, and then that's it. No one's ever going to hear from me again. I don't really think that that's a legacy.
And that's a great point I love that point that you brought up. That's so true, right? Like when it comes down to legacy, there's no such thing as turning it off, or how long am I going to do this for? No, you're going to keep doing it, because that's the power. You have to keep doing it. You have to keep putting yourself out there. I truly, honestly believe when I meet people in life and see why some people are not happy, no matter what's happening in the external, I truly believe is because they're not serving, they're not fulfilling themselves. Yeah, they could have a job, because when you have a job, the reason you have that job is because you're serving people, right?
Yep.
from Woolworths, wherever you're working, you're serving people. That's why you have that job. But the reason why people are not truly satisfied, again, I'll take it back, is because they're not getting themselves out there. They're not putting themselves out there. This content is life changing. You know you're doing it. When you're putting things out there in the universe, it gives you a greater sense of purpose. It gives you a greater sense of feeling. That's what this is really all about. Like I wake up sometimes 3 hours of sleep. I can't help myself because I'm excited. How can I keep putting it out there? So this personal branding, it doesn't stop. It's a game that keeps going. It keeps on how can I continue to evolve, right? I don't believe in retirement. You retire when you die. Even me, like I know when I'm 80, 90, I'm still going to be having the camera, maybe have a show, talk with grandpa, and I'm telling them stories. I'm still going to be personal branding. There's no retirement. There's no stopping.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, this is an ongoing thing.
Yeah. And I would imagine too that CEOs that come to work with you or thinking about working with you or doing all of this, it would be quite overwhelming, I suspect, with some CEOs that have that real old school thinking of, well, I will build it and people will come. But that's not the world that we live in anymore, is it?
Yeah, yeah, and it is overwhelming. It is overwhelming when they see this and the concept of this.
Yeah.
But what I like to say to our clients and the people that we work with is, we make this simple, easy, and fun. This is simple, easy, and fun. It is. We're going to make it easy for you in terms of just keep doing what you love, right? And over time, it will come to you, right? Over time, right? Personal branding is all about, it comes to you, right?
Yeah.
So there's a difference with sales and branding. They do co-align, because when you build a personal brand, it affects your sales team. You want to make your sales team as redundant as possible, right? People are coming to the top. They go through the sales because they love the brand of who it is so much. Your sales team is just more like, oh, like they have a conversation. You make their life easier when you build that brand. I'll give you a quick example. One guy I like, Patrick Bet David. I had liked a post on his LinkedIn, right? Liked a post. He's got a big company. One of the people in the company, the consulting company, sent me a message to say, hey, we saw you like Patrick Bet David's post. Did you want to learn more about what it takes to have his mindset or to be in the business? They're pitching their business consulting. Because I've consumed so much of his content, I could have potentially gone and done business there. Right? It's so very easily. I knew it was obviously a sales pitch, but still, do you know how easy it makes it for his employees, his sales team, to go and make that sale? So much easier, because people love the founder. They love the CEO. He inspires me. So yes, I want to be a part of what he's got going on.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's why it may be a bit overwhelming, but when we explain this, it makes a whole lot of more sense, because they understand, yes, it's true. You got to get people to know, like, and trust you. So the more we can build a brand, is we don't have to rely over the long-term period. We don't have to rely on word of mouth referrals. We don't have to rely on, let's say, Google ads, or if ads are there, right? Even if worst case scenario, your social media gets taken down, because you have all this content, boom, back up again. And we have so much content going, but this allows you to build those inbound leads.
Yeah.
Now, when you're sleeping, when you're on holiday, when you're traveling, because you have the content, you have the intellectual property, now that can funnel into your business. You're gone and it's your intellectual property all funneling in. You have the team, you have the operations to take care of everything. You have books now, you have other things around, an ecosystem around you to retain people, because you have the content, because you have the brand. That's going to keep flowing inbound. Yes, you'll still do outbound. Yes, you'll still do sales, but this personal branding accelerates all of those other things.
Yeah. Yeah. And, one of the things, I don't know whether you've ever read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. And it's one of the books that I really read. I've never read the full thing. I've just read it to a point where I got the most important point for me, and I've moved on. But one of the things that he talks about is the 1%. So do 1% every day in your business and you just keep chipping away. So he says, at the end of a year, you've done 365% more than what you have done if you hadn't. But he said the thing, and this is what really resonates with me, he said, people sit and they chip away at their business, their personal brand. They're just slowly, quietly doing what they need to do. And then they get that one break, but then everybody calls them an overnight success. And I think it's really interesting because really some people have been doing this for 10 years, 20 years, but there's that one thing that happens that all of a sudden it explodes. But everyone's like, oh, they're an overnight success. And I just think it's really interesting when you're sort of talking about this as well, is that it is the long game. Like you've just got to, if this is what your passion and your purpose is, then it's about just doing it every day and just trusting that one day you will start to really change people's lives.
Powerful. It's so true. Powerful. Yeah. I keep hearing about Atomic Habits. I haven't read it yet because I do have a list. I spoke with one of our clients, Louise, for Peppermint IT. I was a guest on her podcast. She was part of the 2-for-1 offer. But, so she had told me about that book. But yeah, that 1%, it's so true, right? That 1% every day, right?
Yeah.
Taking that camera out. Again, like I had said, when I Googled myself, that was those 1%. And it's still accumulating. So imagine a year from now, imagine 6 months from now.
Yeah.
That's when the magic really happens. So
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how has podcasting helped you and your clients establish credibility and attract opportunities? What is it about podcasting that you think is different to just posting sort of words and photos, I suppose? What's the difference?
That's a very, very good question. The difference is, I love this because I get obsessive about this, but how long are people spending time with me? You give them a podcast or someone finds your podcast and you're not in the room and they're spending 50 minutes listening to you, watching you. 50 minutes they're listening to you and they're watching you. Think about how powerful that is.
Yeah.
Like that is so game changing, right? For our clients. So you're so much more credible, right? You think about it. I ask the random person on the street, who's your favorite podcast? They'll say, oh, this and this person. I said, if that and that person came to you on the street and said, hey, I'd love to do a partnership with you, or I'd love to present you a deal, would you open to speak to them? They say, yes. Why? Because you've already listened to them. You already feel like you know them so well.
Yeah.
So that's part of that credibility that a podcast provides, is that long form, someone to consume you over a long period of time. You look at the US presidency. Why did Donald Trump win? And I kind of saw it was very interesting because I saw it was like Kamala's side is more like the corporate world and Donald Trump's side was more the entrepreneurship world, where it's just like, we got to adapt, we got to move quick. They were still stuck on the news and, regular television. The other side were like, yo, this is what's happening. We got to adapt. We got to be quick. We got to be flexible. So what did they do? He went on 3-hour podcast conversations, long conversations. Kamala went way shorter. So his watch time hours was way further, was long. So it gives you that credibility for people to spend more time with you. And then again, you want to help someone and you can see you have a problem to solve. Don't try and get the sale from someone. Go and say, hey, I'd love to have you on my podcast. Build that relationship. You're getting them in the room, even if you're not getting them per se as a client, but you're building a relationship for something maybe even bigger, for a partnership. So not to have that end in mind, but yes, be able to build that relationship. You want to have a lifetime value of your customers that extends, that's long. You want to keep, being in front of your customers. Get them on your podcast. Get a few and tell them to come on your podcast. So you see the credibility, you see the impact. When you even say you have a podcast, people turn their head because that's what people are consuming and listening to. So it just sets you apart from the rest. You guys are doing sales again. Hey, we just dropped this podcast. You have a newsletter. Go have a listen to it. When you're sleeping, your customers, your prospects, they're going to go in, and if they're interested, they're going to consume. And again, in a very big part where this comes very powerful is recruitment, right? We talk about leadership development. Leadership development is huge, right? For you to grow your business, for you to grow your legacy, for you to grow your empire, you need the right people. You need to attract the right people. Elon Musk, Gary Vee, all these big entrepreneurs, why do they attract the right people? Is because they have a personal brand. right? They have these things like a podcast. So even the people who are wanting to have a purpose and say, I want to go work for that founder, I'm looking for inspiration. If now they're going to come across your content, you're on LinkedIn, you're on all these platforms, they're going to come across your podcast, come across your content. I can do that. And now you do what? You attract the right people. You attract the right people on the team because they already know your values. They already know who you are before they've come to the interview. You've already vetted them through the content and you're not even there. You recruit the best people. And then again, on the business side, credibility, it matches. So like, this is just a no-brainer.
Yeah. And so do you think that podcasting then helps to reduce that timing? You know, we talk about know, like, and trust. And I do podcasts then reduce that time for people to know, like, and trust you because there's a lot of content for people to consume about you?
Yeah, it definitely does. It reduces that time and it allows people time to consume because business takes time. Like a lot of people want to rush in for a sale and get things quickly. And I get it, right? We have things that we're searching for. But then again, it's if I obsess over their problems so much, I'm going to show up every day. And the more I show up every day, the more they're going to consume my content.
Yeah.
Right? So it comes back to obsessing over your audience so much and obsessing over what you do and the solutions you provide and the questions that keep coming in that you want to answer. When you obsess over that, you're going to keep showing that. When you keep showing up, you're going to shorten that time period because people are going to consume you so much that, they're warm.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, do you think, so if someone's wanting to go from being an unknown to becoming the go-to expert in their field, what advice would you have for someone? Obviously, getting their own podcast would probably be your first thing on their list. But what other things could they do?
Yeah, so I would say getting on starting your own podcast, getting on other people's podcasts, and seeing if you can be able to get some of that content as well.
Yep.
Like what you do here, where you provide people that content, and that's very valuable because now they can use that as well. You've posted it on yours, but then they can use that. So I would say start your own podcast, get on other people's podcasts, see how you can have people within your team document things and just put it out there. You got to put it out as much as possible. YouTube Shorts, YouTube, Instagram, all the social platforms. It depends. If you're doing it yourself, you got to do it yourself. When I first started, I was doing it by myself, right? So there's no excuses. You know what I mean? And I know people have businesses and they're running it. Yes, I get it. Even if it's just once a day, you're doing, but if you have that ambition and you want to scale and you have the resources around you, then my suggestion would be, have a team to actually help you do this, right? You want to focus on your zone of genius. It's not your zone of genius, right? So you want to be able to delegate the right people to get onto it, quickly, and just post as much as possible on every platform and you'll win.
And I think I read a statistic just recently that you have it's less than 2 seconds now to grab someone's attention on social media because people just flick through. And so I always think, when I first started out and putting myself out there, I was, oh my gosh, maybe I need to redo that again. Now I just go on video and put it out there because seriously, if I've got less than 2 seconds, which is 1, 2, to grab someone's attention, I don't want to agonize over what I'm putting out there because I don't know, I'm just going to waste so much time and energy on wanting it to be perfect when actually it's just about getting the content out there.
Mm-hmm. You're right. You're so right. On the first point, yes, the attention span is so quickly. One day I was on a train and then I saw someone, like most people, like this, but I was literally like watching him and I was watching him close, and then I said, what makes him stop on one video? What makes him stop on the one? Because they'll stop a few times, and then and then they'll go. Maybe they'll watch the full video or they'll go. What makes them stop? So that became an obsession of, we got to be the person. Yes, they may scroll through us, but for some people where they stop and they like watch it. So yes, it comes down to how quick can you grab the attention. But on the other side of that, like you said, you can't have that perfection mindset. Oh, I got to get it right. I love what you just said there. Just put it out there. And we're also going into a time period where authenticity is needed now more than ever. So even now, the highly polished videos, and some people even, they don't want to see that. Yes, we'll have those for the ones that we need it for, and capturing the attention, we got to put those in. But sometimes, like, I'll have the same as you. As much as I do this and love this and we're good at editing and I know how to edit myself, a lot of videos I don't even have time for. I'm even just so much busier now. I'll just put it out there. And they'll still capture the attention because that authenticity, maybe something I've said in the first few seconds, like, are you going through anxiety? Boom. That's a hook. There's not even a special edit or anything. If I put a video and are you going through anxiety in your life? Because if someone's scrolling, that could stop them.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I am. So do you know what I mean? So that's where it comes into things like that, where you don't have to have highly crazy edits. Like you said, you can just put it out there. But can you be a little bit strategic in maybe how you start the video? But when you put it out there, you'll start to learn, but regardless, people will watch you for you. So, but those are just small pointers on how can we capture people,
Yeah. I was always taught that, if you're wanting to try to attract people's attention, like ask a question, because that's a really good way of, don't say, hi, it's me, da-da-da. It's asking that question because people will often stop if it's relevant to them, as opposed to them not, if I've got less than 2 seconds to grab someone's attention, me saying, hi, it's Megan again, I hope you've had a great day, I've lost them all. Whereas if I've asked them that one question, then it grabs them. So
I like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, there's so much information. So can you believe that we've only got a couple of minutes left? I know. I knew that this would run very smoothly.
Especially with me and you, especially with the way we communicate.
Exactly.
I also like the flow. I love asking you questions as well. But no, yeah, I love it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. Me too. So I'm going to ask you the same question that I ask all of my guests before we finish. And can you share with us what your favorite quote is and why is it so important to you?
My favorite quote is, you are a reflection of the people you serve, or you are a mirror of your clients. And that one hit me when I heard that. I was like, whoa, that is so true. Why is that so true? Well, I'll give you a quick story, a little bit behind it. When we do personal branding for our clients, we actually get to see them for who they are. We get to see what people don't see because we're documenting it for them, right? So I'll go into the lawyer's office. I'll go into this, these other CEO's office and see what they do. Go in and see how they plan strategy sessions, right? See their creativity, their attention to detail. But when I'm around them, I'm like that. I do that. I have that perfection mindset where I love to have things done, and I'm like that. So then I heard a quote that you are a mirror of your clients.
Yeah. Wow.
And that was a game changer for me. So the fact that I'm a mirror of them, it even allows me to serve them better because I know what they want.
Yep.
Before, when they text me, I know, and maybe we've made a mistake, I know I can't text them with excuses.
Yeah.
Or if they come with a problem, I know, because I myself, when someone presents a problem to me, I'm solution focused. So I myself don't want to hear any problems. I want to hear, sure, I'll get it done.
Yeah.
So when we serve them, it allows us to serve them even better because they are a mirror of you. So one of the most powerful quotes is, you're a mirror of your clients.
I love that. And I think that it's really perfect for you because, and really to wrap up this conversation, because it really is then, if you're serving, then you're going to attract the people that you want to serve. Like it's kind of a no-brainer, actually. Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's actually a great point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you so much, Sugira, for being my guest today. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm really grateful at how generous you've been with what you've shared, and I'm sure that the audience is as well. There's lots of things to take on board, and I'm sure that people have been writing all of your tips and tricks down. So thank you so much for that.
No worries. I again want to thank you, and I can't wait to see our future going forward in what we're going to be doing. Maybe we'll take a trip to America. We'll go here. The sky's the limit. You've been amazing since I've met you. You came to my house, guys. By the way, Megan came to my home. She met Mum real quick. Mum was kind of in a rush, but you'll definitely will come again. But I do want to thank you so much for having me on your show and being able to build a relationship. And that day you first came and spoke to me, now look at where we are. This is the power of personal branding. This is the power of partnership. You've got a personal brand. I've got a personal brand. And how can we collaborate to do what? To give value to other people. And that value is going to come back to us in our different ways. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. And I just also want to thank all of our amazing and dedicated audience, our supporters and our sponsors. And I hope that you all have a beautiful and amazing weekend. And I look forward to seeing you all next week.